5 years after the Zephyrian War ended, humanity ruled a quarter of the known galaxy. President Helen Carter stood in her office on Earth, looking at a star map that showed the new reality. Red dots marked human military bases. Blue lines showed patrol routes. Green zones indicated former alien territories, now under human control. The peaceful federation of scientists and explorers was gone forever. In its place stood the Terran Defense Union, a military empire that made other species whisper in fear. Carter had been re-elected 3 times, not because people loved her, but because they trusted her to keep humanity safe. Madam President, General Pete Anderson said as he entered her office, the monthly security report. Carter took the data, pad, and read through it. 17 alien species had requested permission to enter human space for trade. 43 planets had applied for human protection. 6 different empires had offered tribute in exchange for non-aggression pacts. How many threats this month? Carter asked. None, ma'am. No hostile actions detected anywhere in our sphere. Of influence. The other species seemed to have learned their lesson. Carter nodded. The lesson had been brutal but effective. Every alien civilization in the galaxy now knew what happened to species that threatened humanity. The Zephyrian refugee camps served as living reminders of human power. Dr. Kate Miller worked in her new laboratory on Mars, developing weapons that pushed the boundaries of physics itself. Her team had grown from 12 scientists to over 10,000. Every human world contributed resources to her research. The goal was simple: make sure humanity never faced an equal enemy again. Director Miller, her assistant Dr. Paul Green, said, "The new dimensional torpedoes are ready for testing." Miller looked at the weapon specifications. These devices could punch holes in space-time itself, creating temporary black holes that consumed everything within light years. It was power beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Schedule the tests for next month," she said, "and make sure the alien observers are invited to watch. Let them see what we're capable of now." Admiral Ruth Parker commanded the Terran Defense Fleet from her flagship, now called the U.E.'s Domination. Her fleet patrolled human space with ships that could destroy solar systems. Every vessel carried enough firepower to level planets. Every crew member was trained in warfare from childhood. "Admiral," Captain Jake Morrison reported from his new command ship, "we've detected 3 alien vessels approaching the border. There, requesting permission to enter human space." Morrison had changed in the years since the war. The peaceful explorer who once studied new life forms was now a hardened military commander. His ship carried weapons that could sterilize worlds. His crew consisted of soldiers who had grown up hearing stories of the Zephyrian attacks. "What species?" Parker asked. "Alterians, ma'am. They say they want to negotiate a trade agreement." Parker considered this. The Alterians had been neutral during the war, but they had also refused to condemn the Zephyrian attacks. That made them potential enemies in our mind. Grant them permission to approach, but keep weapons locked on their ships. And make sure they see our defensive installations. The Alterian delegation was escorted to Luna Base, humanity's largest military facility. Ambassador Veltara led the alien group, her blue skin pale with nervousness. She had seen the reports of what humans could do. Her people wanted to avoid the same fate as the Zephyrians. "Honored humans," she said through her translator, "we come in peace and friendship. Our people wish to trade with your great empire." Colonel Tim Rogers, now in charge of alien relations, listened to her words with cold attention. He had fought in the ground war against the Zephyrians. He had seen what they did to human children. Every alien he met was a potential threat until proven otherwise. "Trade is possible," Rogers said, "but under human terms. Your ships will be escorted at all times. Your people will submit to security scans. Any hostile action will result in the immediate destruction of your home world. Veltara agreed quickly. Her species had no choice. Humanity controlled the trade routes they needed to survive. Refusing human terms meant economic collapse, and economic collapse often led to military intervention by human forces. Dr. Ashley Davis monitored communications across alien space from her expanded facility on Pluto. Her team now included linguists and cultural experts from every known species. They listened to everything, learning secrets that could be turned into weapons if necessary. Madam President, Davis reported during the weekly briefing, we're detecting increased chatter about forming an anti-human alliance. The Andromedans and the Rigel Union are discussing joint military exercises. Carter frowned. The Andromedans were a proud warrior species. The Rigel Union controlled valuable mining systems. Together, they might pose a threat to human expansion. Recommendations? Carter asked. I suggest we demonstrate our new reality bombs, General Anderson said. Pick an uninhabited system near their space and remove it from existence. Send a clear message about what happens to species that threaten us. Carter approved the demonstration. 3 days later, the Kepler 186 system simply vanished. 4 planets, 2 asteroid belts, and a star disappeared from the universe, as if they had never existed. Alien scientists confirmed that there was nothing left, not even empty space where the system had been. The effect was immediate. The Andromedans canceled their military exercises. The Rigel Union sent diplomats offering friendship and tribute. 17 other species requested immediate non-aggression pacts with humanity. Captain Maria Lopez commanded the patrol fleet that maintained order in former Zephyrian space. Her ships regularly visited the refugee camps where the survivors lived under human supervision. The once mighty empire was reduced to a few million individuals scattered across primitive worlds. Captain, her aide Lieutenant Sam Clark reported, the Zephyrian elders are requesting another meeting. They want to discuss the possibility of limited self-government. Lopez considered this. The Zephyrians had been model prisoners for 5 years. They worked hard, caused no trouble, and regularly provided intelligence about other potentially hostile species. Some human leaders thought they had been punished enough. Denied, Lopez said. They can request again in another 5 years. The truth was that humanity had changed too much to ever return to its peaceful ways. Every human child now learned military tactics alongside mathematics. Every colony world had defense systems that could fight off invasion fleets. Every human adult knew how to use weapons of mass destruction. Dr. Lisa Hayes, now director of the Galactic Survey Division, studied new species with an eye toward their military potential. When humans found aliens, they no longer asked about culture or science. They asked about weapons, defenses, and whether the species posed a threat. Dr. Hayes, her assistant reported, we've detected a new species in the Vega system. They appear to be pre-industrial, no spaceflight capability. Hayes nodded. Send a monitoring station. If they develop weapons technology, we'll need to decide whether to integrate them into our sphere or eliminate them before they become a threat. President Carter signed the Galactic Defense Act, making human military service mandatory for all citizens. Every person would serve 5 years in the armed forces. Every human world would maintain a military garrison. Every human ship would carry weapons capable of destroying planets. The other species in the galaxy watched these developments with growing fear. Humanity had become the dominant military power, and they showed no signs of returning to their peaceful ways. The sleeping giant had awakened, and it intended to stay awake forever. As Carter looked at the star maps showing human expansion, she sometimes wondered if they had gone too far. But then she remembered the footage from New Denver, the recordings of human children dying while aliens studied their suffering, and her doubts disappeared. Humanity had learned the most important lesson in galactic politics. In a universe full of predators, the most dangerous predator was the one that everyone underestimated. They would never be underestimated again. The age of human peace was over. The age of human dominance had begun, and it would last for as long as humans remembered what it felt like to bury their children. 1 year after the attacks on human colonies, Admiral Ruth Parker gave the order that would end the Zephyrian Empire forever. Her fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Zephyrian home territory. 300 human warships appeared as 1, their weapons charged and ready for battle. But Parker was not alone. Every human colony had sent ships. Mining vessels converted into battleships. Research stations that now carried planet-killing weapons. Transport ships filled with soldiers hungry for revenge. The peaceful Federation had become the largest war fleet in galactic history. All ships, this is Admiral Parker, she broadcast to the fleet. Today, we finish what they started. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when someone murders our families. Colonel Tim Rogers stood in the cargo bay of the U's Liberation, addressing his ground assault forces. These soldiers came from every human world. Farmers from New Texas, miners from the Belt colonies, scientists from the research stations. All of them had volunteered to fight. Listen up, Rogers told his troops. The Zephyrians thought we were weak because we were peaceful. They thought we did not know how to fight. Today, we prove them wrong. The soldiers checked their weapons one final time. These were not the simple rifles humans had carried for centuries. Dr. Kate Miller's weapons division had created guns that could punch through 3 meters of steel. Armor that could stop energy beams powerful enough to melt mountains. Equipment that turned ordinary humans into one-person armies. Dr. Nancy White watched from her laboratory ship as her quantum weapons division prepared humanity's ultimate weapon. The reality bombs could remove matter from existence itself. They did not destroy targets so much as make them never exist in the first place. It was a power that scared even the humans who built it. Dr. White, Admiral Parker's voice came through the communication system. Are your weapons ready? White looked at the displays showing her terrible creations. Yes, Admiral. We can erase their entire home system if necessary. Good. Stand by. The Zephyrian Defense Fleet tried to stop the human advance. Their crystal ships had once seemed mighty and unstoppable. Now they looked small and fragile compared to the human war machines bearing down on them. Admiral Kethvar commanded the defense from his flagship, but he already knew it was hopeless. All ships engage the humans, he ordered, though his voice lacked conviction. The battle lasted 6 hours. The Zephyrians fought bravely, but they were facing an enemy that had learned from every species in the galaxy. Human ships used Altarian shield technology. Human weapons were based on Centauri. Energy systems. Human tactics combined the best strategies from a dozen different civilizations. Captain Roy Davis commanded the bombardment fleet that began the assault on the Zephyrian capital world. His orders were specific. Target the same types of buildings the aliens had destroyed on human worlds. Schools, hospitals, civilian shelters. The Zephyrians would learn what their victims had felt. Begin bombardment, Davis ordered. Energy beams lanced down from orbit, striking the crystal cities of the Zephyrian home world. But these were not random attacks. Every strike was calculated to mirror the original assault on New Denver Port, Columbus, and Haven Station. The humans had studied the attack patterns and were repeating them exactly. In the capital city of Zikanara, Overlord Kethvar watched his civilization burn. The gleaming spires that had stood for 1,000 years collapsed into rubble. The schools where Zephyrian children learned about their glorious empire became craters in the ground. Sir, his aide reported, the humans are broadcasting on all frequencies. They want to speak with you. President Carter's image appeared on the main screen in Kethvar's command bunker. Behind her stood the leaders of every human colony that had been attacked, the families of the dead, as survivors who remembered. "Overlord Kethvar," Carter said, her voice cold as space itself, "you wanted to study human suffering. You recorded our people dying for your entertainment. Now we return the favor." Kethvar tried to respond, to offer surrender, but Carter continued speaking. "Every human death will be repaid tenfold. Every child you murdered will cost you a city. Every hospital you destroyed will cost you a world. This is not conquest. This is justice." The human ground forces landed on the Zephyrian homeworld like a plague of destruction. Colonel Rogers led the assault on the capital city. His soldiers moved through the streets with deadly efficiency, clearing every building, every bunker, every hiding place, but they were not killing randomly. The humans had lists, names of every Zephyrian who had participated in the attacks, officials who had planned them, soldiers who had carried them out, citizens who had celebrated them. Each one was found and brought to account. "Colonel, Sergeant," Lisa Park reported, "we found the data storage facility. All the recordings they made of our people dying. Everything is here." Rogers looked at the massive computer banks that held the final moments of 2 million human lives. The Zephyrians had cataloged every scream, every tear, every final breath. They had studied human agony like it was entertainment. "Destroy it. All," Rogers ordered. "And make sure every Zephyrian knows what we found." Dr. Nancy White received the order she had been dreading and hoping for at the same time. 3 Zephyrian worlds had refused to surrender. Their populations had chosen to fight to the death rather than submit to human justice. "Deploy the reality bombs," Admiral Parker commanded. White activated the quantum weapons. 3 suns went dark as entire solar systems simply ceased to exist. The Zephyrians watched in horror as their strongest worlds vanished from the universe, removed from space and time itself. The humans had learned to weaponize the fundamental forces of creation. Overlord Kethvar sent desperate communications, offering complete surrender. He promised to disband his military, to pay any tribute, to accept any terms. The humans ignored his pleas. They had moved beyond negotiation into the realm of total destruction. Captain Maria Lopez led the final assault on the Zephyrian command center. Her soldiers found Kethvar hiding in a bunker beneath his palace. The mighty overlord who had ordered the murder of millions was cowering in the dark like a frightened animal. "Please," Kethvar begged in broken human language. "We surrender. We give up. Please stop." Lopez looked at the alien who had caused so much pain. She thought of the families destroyed, the children murdered, the future stolen. Then she thought of the recordings the Zephyrians had made of human suffering. "You had your chance for mercy," she said. "You chose to study our pain instead. Now you can study your own." The Zephyrian Empire died on that day. Their military was shattered beyond repair. Their government was destroyed. Their population was scattered across 100 refugee camps. The species that had considered humans inferior vermin had been completely and utterly broken by their intended victims. As the human fleet prepared to leave the ruins of Zephyrian space, Admiral Parker looked at the tactical displays showing the destruction. 12 worlds destroyed. Hundreds of military installations eliminated. An entire civilization reduced to refugees begging for food and shelter. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from 17 other alien species. They want to assure us of their peaceful intentions." Parker nodded. Word of humanity's retaliation was spreading across the galaxy. Other species were beginning to understand that the peaceful humans they had known were gone forever. In their place stood something far more dangerous. The sleeping giant had awakened and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the attacks, humanity was ready. Admiral Ruth Parker stood on the bridge of the UE's Retribution, the most powerful warship ever built by human hands. Around her in space, 200 other ships waited for orders. This was not the same species that had been building peaceful research stations just half a year ago. The first strike would not be with weapons. Tech specialist Danny Green sat in a room filled with computers on Earth's military base. His team of hackers had spent months learning how Zephyrian computers worked. They had studied every signal, every data transmission, every piece of alien technology humans had ever captured. "Begin the cyber attack," Danny said to his team. Across the galaxy, Zephyrian computer systems began to fail. Their banking networks crashed first. Credits that had existed for seconds vanished from accounts. Trade ships found themselves unable to buy fuel or food. Factories shut down because they could not pay their workers. Commander Zeekther of the Zephyrian Third Fleet watched his supply computers go dark. His ships carried enough food for 2 weeks, but the resupply stations were all offline. The humans had somehow reached across space and strangled his empire's economy with invisible hands. "How is this possible?" he asked his communications officer. "Unknown, sir. Every computer system we have is infected with something we cannot understand. Our best technicians say it learns how to destroy whatever it touches." Danny Green smiled as he watched the chaos spread through alien space. The quantum virus Dr. Maya Jones had created was working perfectly. It traveled through every electronic device the Zephyrians owned, learning their weaknesses and exploiting them. Within hours, their entire civilization was falling apart, but the cyber attack was only the beginning. Dr. John Blake worked from a different facility, one focused on psychological warfare. He had studied the Zephyrians for years, learning their culture and their fears. Humans had been preparing for this moment longer than the aliens realized. "Start the broadcast," Blake told his team. Every Zephyrian communication device began playing the same message. It was spoken in perfect Zephyrian, language by someone who knew their history better than they did. The voice told them about their ancient civil wars, their buried shame, their deepest cultural traumas. It reminded them of every failure their species had ever experienced. "Citizens of the Zephyrian Empire," the message said, "you have awakened something you do not understand. Humans have been watching you for decades. We know your weaknesses. We know your fears. We know how your ancestors destroyed themselves in wars you pretend never happened." Zephyrian civilians began to panic. The humans somehow knew things about their history that most Zephyrians had forgotten. How was that possible? How long had the humans been studying them? What else did they know? Captain Maria Lopez commanded the stealth destroyer U.E.'s Vengeance as it approached a Zephyrian military base. Her ship was invisible to their sensors, using technology developed from studying their own stealth systems. The aliens had taught humans how to hide from them without realizing it. "Target identified," her weapons officer Lieutenant Sam Clark reported. "Zephyrian Command Post 7. Population 8,000 military personnel." "Fire," Lopez said without emotion. The quantum torpedoes struck the base before the Zephyrians even knew they were under attack. But these were not ordinary explosives. They phased through the base's shields and armor as if they did not exist, then exploded inside the facility's command center. Within minutes, the base was destroyed. But more importantly, the Zephyrians found evidence that the humans had been there. Security footage showed human soldiers walking through their most secure areas, planting bombs with casual efficiency. The message was clear. Nowhere was safe. Parker received reports from 50 similar attacks across Zephyrian space. Human ships appeared from nowhere, struck precisely at military targets, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Each attack left behind just enough evidence to show the Zephyrians that humans had been there. Status report, Parker asked her intelligence officer, Commander Alex Turner. The psychological impact is exceeding our expectations, Admiral. Zephyrian. Military units are requesting emergency reinforcements. Their civilian population is fleeing from border systems. Command communications show increasing panic. The Zephyrians had expected to fight primitive humans with simple weapons. Instead, they faced an enemy that seemed to know their every weakness. Human attacks targeted not just military installations, but the specific systems that would cause maximum fear and confusion. Dr. Ashley Davis monitored Zephyrian communications from her listening post. The messages she intercepted painted a picture of a civilization in collapse. Military commanders were arguing with each other. Civilian leaders were demanding explanations that no one could provide. Overlord Kethver is requesting an emergency meeting of the High Command, she reported to President Carter. Intelligence suggests they are discussing surrender options. Carter listened to the alien communications through her translator. 6 months ago, these same voices had been celebrating the murder of human children. Now they were begging their own leaders to find a way to stop the human retaliation. Not yet, Carter said. They wanted to study our suffering. Now we study theirs. The human attack was happening on every level simultaneously. Dr. Kate Miller's weapons division deployed gravity bombs that could crush space stations into tiny spheres of metal. Engineer corps, led by Colonel Tim Rogers, sabotaged Zephyrian infrastructure, causing power failures and transportation breakdowns across their empire. Captain Eddie Ross commanded a squadron of fighter ships that specialized in hit-and-run attacks. His pilots had learned to use Zephyrian hyperspace routes against them, appearing inside their own territory to strike at will. Remember, Ross told his pilots before each mission, make them afraid to sleep, make them afraid to leave their homes, make them understand what terror feels like. The Zephyrians tried to adapt, but humans always seemed to be one step ahead. Every defensive measure they implemented was countered by a new human attack method. Every attempt to reinforce their positions was met by precisely targeted strikes that left them weaker than before. Overlord Kethvar stood in his command center on the Zephyrian home world, watching his empire crumble on the tactical displays. Red warning lights showed failed systems across dozens of star systems. His military advisors offered no solutions because there were none. How many humans are there? He asked his intelligence chief. Our estimates suggest 15 billion across. 200 worlds, Overlord. And how many of them are fighting us? All of them, sir. Every human world is contributing to this war effort. They have turned their entire civilization into a weapon pointed at us. Kethver realized the magnitude of his mistake. He had attacked what he thought was a weak species. Instead, he had awakened something that fought wars on levels his people could not even comprehend. The humans were not just using military force. They were using their enemy's own systems, cultures, and fears against them. The sleeping giant was fully awake now, and it was systematically destroying everything the Zephyrians had built across 1,000 years of expansion. President Helen Carter stood before the Global Assembly on Earth. Every seat was filled. Representatives from 200 human colonies had traveled here to hear her words. The footage from the destroyed worlds played on screens around the chamber. No one spoke. The silence was heavy with grief and anger. Carter had been president for 6 years. She had won elections by promising peace and scientific progress. She had built schools and hospitals across human space. She had signed trade agreements with alien species. All of that seemed like a different lifetime now. My fellow humans, she began, her voice steady despite the rage burning in her chest. For 300 years, we have reached for the stars. In peace, we have offered friendship to every species we have met. We have shared our knowledge and our dreams. Today, that age ends. The representatives sat forward in their chairs. Many had lost friends and family in the attacks. Others knew that their own worlds could be next. All of them wanted to know what humanity would do now. General Pete Anderson watched the speech from his office deep beneath the Pentagon. He had been waiting for this moment since the first reports came in from the Kepler 442 system. His staff, officers stood around him, their faces grim. They all knew what was coming next. "Activate Project Prometheus," Anderson said into his communication device. "Full authorization. Unlimited funding. Priority Alpha." Across human space, secret facilities began to wake up. Dr. Kate Miller received the message at her laboratory. On Titan, she had been working on theoretical weapons for 15 years, hoping she would never need to build them. Today, that hope died. Miller's team began working around the clock. The weapons they designed existed only in computer simulations and classified reports. Now they would become real. Humanity had learned many lessons from their own bloody history. Every colony's ship carried blueprints for weapons that could destroy worlds. Commander Steve Taylor got his orders while commanding a mining station near Jupiter. His crews had been pulling metals from asteroids to build new cities and space stations. Within 6 hours, they were building missile factories instead. The mining equipment that carved up rocks would now make weapons. "Sir," his assistant Lisa Park said, looking at the production orders, "these are weapons of mass destruction. Some of these designs could crack a planet." Taylor looked at the footage from New Denver, playing on his office screen. "Good. Maybe. The aliens will think twice before they murder more children." The transformation was happening everywhere. Peaceful research stations became weapons laboratories. Cargo ships were refitted with military hardware. Mining colonies started producing materials for warships instead of building supplies. Dr. Maya Jones worked in a secret facility beneath the moon's surface. She was humanity's leading expert on quantum computing. The networks that connected human colonies across the galaxy were her creation. They had been built to share scientific knowledge and keep families in touch across the vast distances of space. Maya, her supervisor Dr. Frank Lee, said, "We need to weaponize the quantum network. Can it be done?" Maya looked at the technical specifications on her screen. The quantum communication system linked every human world instantly. It ignored distance and traveled faster than light itself. She had built it to bring humanity together. Now they wanted to use it to bring death to their enemies. "Yes," she said quietly, "it can carry more than just messages. It can carry viruses, programs that could shut down entire civilizations, weapons that exist as information itself." Within days, Maya's team had created the most dangerous computer virus ever designed. It could travel through any electronic system and learn how to destroy it from within. When it was finished, it would be like giving every human colony the power to reach across the galaxy and strangle their enemies. Admiral Ruth Parker stood in the shipyard orbiting Mars. Around her, the largest construction project in human history was taking shape. The UES Retribution was 3 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy a solar system. It was the first of 50 such ships that would be built in the coming months. Admiral Chief Engineer Dan White said, "The new armor plating is ready for installation. It's made from materials we learned about from studying alien technology. Nothing we've ever built can penetrate it." Parker nodded. Humanity had been studying aliens for decades, learning their strengths and weaknesses. The peaceful contact missions had gathered intelligence without anyone realizing it. Now that knowledge would be turned into weapons that the alien species that had attacked them made one crucial mistake. They thought humans were weak because they were peaceful. They saw the lack of weapons on human ships and assumed humans could not fight. They were wrong. Captain Maria Lopez received her new assignment at the Naval Academy on Luna. She would command one of the new stealth destroyers being built in secret. These ships could appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning and disappear just as quickly. "Your mission," Admiral Parker told her, "is to make the aliens afraid. Hit them where they feel safe. Show them that nowhere in their empire is beyond our reach." Lopez had lost her brother in the attack on Haven Station. She accepted the mission with cold determination. The aliens wanted to study human suffering. Soon they would have the chance to study their own. Back on Earth, President Carter signed the Emergency Powers Act. It gave the military unlimited authority to build weapons and recruit soldiers. Every human world would contribute ships and crews to the war effort. The Peaceful Federation was becoming a unified war machine. Dr. Ashley Davis monitored alien communications from her station on Pluto. She spoke 17 alien languages and understood their cultures better than most humans. Her job was to listen to what the aliens were saying about the attacks. "Madam President," she reported, "the Zephyrians are celebrating. They're calling the attack a great success. They think they've taught humanity its place in the galaxy." Carter's hands clenched into fists. "What else are they saying?" "They're planning more attacks. They want to wipe out every human colony. They see us as a disease that needs to be cured." Carter looked out her window at the lights of Geneva below. Millions of people lived their lives down there, unaware that an alien empire wanted them all dead. She would not let that happen. "Dr. Davis," she said, "I want you to send the Zephyrians a message. Tell them that humanity thanks them for their lesson. Tell them we learned it well, and tell them that class is now in session." Across human space, the transformation continued. Scientists became weapons designers. Miners became ammunition manufacturers. Teachers became soldiers. The species that had built cities among the stars was preparing for the greatest war in galactic history. The sleeping giant was awake, and it was very, very angry. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the HMS Discovery, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. The year 2157 had been quiet so far, just the way he liked it. His ship was not built for war. It was a research vessel filled with scientists who studied new worlds and the life forms they found on them. Dr. Lisa Hayes worked in her lab 3 decks below, looking at tiny creatures through her microscope. She had found them floating in the space around a nearby planet. They were unlike anything humans had seen before. Each one was smaller than a grain of sand, but they glowed with their own light. Lisa made careful notes about each specimen. This discovery could change how humans understood life in the galaxy. The Discovery had been exploring the Kepler 442 system for 2 months. It was a peaceful place with 6 planets and no signs of intelligent life. Captain Morrison liked these kinds of missions. No politics, no danger, just pure science. His crew of 45 people shared his love for discovery. Lieutenant Bob Miller sat at the sensor station. He had been monitoring space traffic all morning, but the area was empty except for automated cargo ships traveling between human colonies. That changed at exactly 11:47 ship time. "Captain," Bob said, his voice tight with concern, "I'm picking up massive energy readings. Something big is coming out of hyperspace." Morrison moved to look over Bob's shoulder at the sensor display. The readings were unlike anything he had seen before. The energy signatures were enormous, far larger than any human ship ever built. "How many contacts?" Morrison asked. 12. "No, 15 ships. Captain, these things are huge. The smallest one is 3 kilometers long." The alien ships appeared. On the main screen, as they dropped out of hyperspace, they looked like they were made of blue crystal, with sharp edges that caught the light from the nearby star. Each ship pulsed with internal energy that made them glow like living things. Morrison had met 3 alien species during his 20 years in space. All of them had been peaceful. First contact protocols required him to send a greeting message and wait for a response. He opened a communication channel. Unknown vessels. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human ship HMS Discovery. We greet you in peace and friendship. Please respond. The alien ships said nothing. They arranged themselves in a perfect battle formation and began moving toward the inner planets of the system. Morrison felt his stomach drop as he realized where they were heading. Bob, get me a direct line to New Denver Colony. Emergency frequency. New Denver was home to 800,000 people. It was one of humanity's oldest colonies outside the Sol system, a peaceful world of farms and research stations. Morrison had visited there many times. His sister Jenny lived there with her 2 children. The communication came through filled with static. Discovery. This is New Denver Control. We see them too. What are they? I don't know, Morrison replied. But you need to activate your defense shields now. Captain, Bob called out, the alien ships are charging weapons. Energy readings are off the scale. Morrison watched in horror as the crystal ships opened fire. Beams of pure energy lanced down from orbit, striking New Denver cities with surgical precision. The planet's defense shields lasted less than 10 seconds before they overloaded and failed. Dr. Hayes ran onto the bridge, having felt the ship shake as Morrison pushed the engines to full power. What's happening? We're under attack, Morrison said, his voice hollow. He couldn't take his eyes off the main screen as the alien ships systematically destroyed everything on New Denver. The capital city of Thompson vanished in a ball of fire. The agricultural centers burned. Even the hospitals and schools were targeted specifically. Captain, Bob said, his face pale, I'm getting emergency signals from Port Columbus and Haven Station. The aliens are hitting them too. Port Columbus was an industrial world with 900,000 people. Haven Station was smaller, only 600,000, but it was home to families who had just started new lives among the stars. Morrison tried to contact both colonies, but the signals cut off one by one as the alien ships did their work. The attack lasted exactly 47 minutes. When it was over, 3 human worlds were dead. 2.3 million people had been murdered without warning or explanation. The alien ships gathered together and jumped back into hyperspace, leaving no trace except the burning worlds behind them. Morrison stood in stunned silence. In his 42 years of life, he had never seen such calculated brutality. The aliens had not tried to conquer the worlds or steal their resources. They had simply killed everyone and left. Captain, Bob said quietly, I'm detecting ships coming out of hyperspace. Human ships this time. The rescue fleet arrived within hours. Admiral Carl Brooks commanded it from his flagship, the U's Guardian. Morrison had served under Brooks years ago and respected the older man's judgment. If anyone could make sense of this attack, it would be Brooks. Jake, Brooks said over the communication link, what did you see out there? Morrison told him everything. The sudden appearance of the alien ships, their crystal-like appearance, the systematic destruction of the colonies. As he spoke, he could see Brooks's face growing darker. Admiral, Morrison said, there's something else. Our sensors picked up strange signals from the alien ships during the attack. They were recording everything, transmitting the footage somewhere. Brooks was quiet for a long moment. They were studying us, learning how we die. The rescue ships found very few survivors. Most of the colonists had died in the first wave of attacks. Those who lived told horrible stories of energy beams that targeted anywhere people might hide. The aliens had hunted down every human they could find. Dr. Amy Chun, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, arrived on the next transport. She studied the attack patterns and the targeting data. Her report would change everything humans thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. This was not random violence, she told Morrison as they stood in the ruins of New Denver's capital. This was a test. They wanted to see how we would respond to the complete destruction of our people. Morrison looked at the smoking crater that had once been a thriving city. His sister's home was somewhere under that rubble. What kind of species? Does something like this? One that sees us as nothing more than insects, Chun replied. They're not interested in our technology or our worlds. They just want us gone. As Morrison returned to Earth to give his report, he knew that everything had changed. Humanity had reached for the stars in peace, offering friendship to any species they met. That age was ending. The aliens had made sure of that when they decided to study human suffering like a science experiment. The sleeping giant was about to wake up, and it would not be peaceful anymore.